Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be upgrading my utility trailer. It's a standard 5x8 utility trailer I bought about 10 years ago from Lowe's. It's been a workhorse. This thing has done everything I've ever asked it, but it's getting kind of long in the tooth. As you can see, the wood's all rotted from these pictures. I'm going to fix all that, put a fresh coat of paint on there, do some new wiring, and fix a torsion issue that you'll see here shortly. We're going to do a quick before video here, little flyby. As you can see, this was all pressure treated plywood. I think it was 15/16. Pretty decent at the time, but after 10 years, it's shown its age. It just needs to get replaced. My trailer is what's known as a straight tongue design, meaning there is one center beam, the tongue beam, also known as the center spine, that connects the trailer to your vehicle. This is the most common design you'll see in small utility trailers because the manufacturers can make them very easily and very cheaply. Here are some other tongue designs you might have seen on trailers. Here's your straight tongue design. Here's your A-frame tongue design and compound tongue design. One of the problems you might experience with a trailer that has a straight tongue design is torsion flex. Let me demonstrate that for you. Exactly. You're probably saying the same thing I said when I found this out. When you have this type of trailer, it's very important that you check these 4 welds. These 4 welds are the least supported and will experience the most flex. In my case, both of these welds were broken and I had to grind them out and re-weld them. By far, the best modification you can do to a straight tongue trailer is by adding lateral sports like you see here. The plan was to use this 2x4 as a template. I wanted to go underneath the trailer to help support these corners and come across and tie it into the tongue. What I noticed though is when I clamped it down, that 2x4 should have been level with the top of the tongue. And as you can see here, it's actually below a good 1.5 inches. So I had to figure out why.
Okay, so what I did here was really interesting. So what I decided to do was I had a spare 4x6 and decided to try that principle. For every action there's an opposite and equal reaction, and I used a little 4-foot strap and put my jack under there. And what happened was I had to use, this little angled pry bar because the normal jack, like it wouldn't fit. I couldn't even get it in the jack all the way. So using the pry bar, I was able to go ahead and jack this up. I don't know if I'll go ahead and jack this one time and see if you can actually see it raise. But darn if that didn't work. Go ahead and look at this thing now. She is straight as an arrow. I'm going to go ahead and weld up some flat stock on there to reinforce it some later, but that thing worked. She worked like a charm. Everything else is straight. I checked those and all the other ones, and if you look over here, just by jacking up that, she's now flush. Doesn't look like it, but I have a little friction on here, but raised it all the way up. So now we're good. I think that corner is also a little down. I might do the same thing on that corner to jack it up a little. I'm gonna put the board on the other side to see where that board comes in and if it's flush at the top or not. So I'll try that now.
What you're going to notice is when I jack this up, you can actually see the piece of wood rise higher than the top of the tongue beam. And I actually moved it up a good almost an inch higher than the tongue beam. There's going to be some spring back, so when you let the jack down, the level off, and everything is going to be even.
Alright, it finally stopped raining. It's been raining here for about 5 days straight, and the sun's finally out. I did a few things off camera, really not that important. If you have basic knowledge, it's really not worth showing, but I'll explain at least what I did. I took, here's the Crossmember Support. I just took a speed square and cut a 45 and put it under there. Marked another line and cut that even. Took the spare tire off. You don't have one of these, definitely worth getting. And I'm going to flip this whole thing over to weld it up. And they're not that heavy. I can get my son and we could just roll it over if we wanted to, but that would be fun. I could get my front end loader and pick it up and flip it over. That would be funner. But instead, I'm going to use my gantry. That'll be the most funner, because who doesn't have a spare gantry just sitting around? So I'm going to go ahead and prep everything and flip it over so I can weld facing down instead of looking up under this thing. I didn't show everything, but here's the final product. I welded those into place, and that, and over there, and I am not a welder, and I don't play one on TV. Matter of fact, on my best day, I'm still a bad welder. So it's not very good. Anyway, so then I added this extra cross member right here. And then I also added a support bar. I added an extra bar right there across. That was the one that was bent that we straightened out before we flipped it over. So that should give that some extra strength. And now we're going to flip this back over, and I will weld the top of those and put the wood on. I'm pretty much finished the overhaul on there, got the wood on. I didn't show any of this. There's plenty of videos out on YouTube if you really want to know how to redeck your trailer. But I wanted to give you some of my personal experience putting these on. A lot of people on YouTube are using these carriage bolts. And I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. That's pretty neat. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Well, the problem is you really can't get them nice and tight. Because what happens is when these carriage bolts, they have these square shoulders. And when you stick them in the wood, sometimes if you drill that hole improperly, or you put your drill in there and the drill starts to spin around, those shoulders can't grab on anything, and this whole thing will just spin, and you really can't tighten them down. If I had to do this all again, I would not do these. I would just get galvanized and just call it a day. For example, these are stainless steel nuts and washers and everything, and they're over 10 years old. This thing's been left out in the weather forever. They're incredible. They're in great shape for being 10 years old when you compare it to the wood that they were holding, which is also 10 years old. And you can tell it is just beat up. So definitely go with galvanized or stainless. And that's it. I just plan to put some wood on the sides and call it a day. Okay, take one. Action.
I had just finished building this gantry. It's going to be another video on how I made this. I made it for a specific project to pull a 1,000-pound gun safe out of a basement. So I couldn't figure out a better way to test it than by putting my son on there.